latest episode of FX's The Patient is here. It is the longest episode we've had this season. So I'm going to give you my thoughts and reactions to the latest episode titled Ezra right after the jump. Hello everyone, Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. Told you it'd be a little bit late on this one, guys, but my trip to Vegas was fantastic. So let's dive right in. Longest episode they've had so far. This one's called Ezra. Before I do, though, I do want to bring up a comment in regards to someone who left a comment on the channel that I had been diagnosing Sam. I had been using the term or label that he was a sociopath, and I don't have the ability to do that. I am not of the mind or the world to place labels like that on people. So if I offended anybody, my apologies. That was not my intent. In this episode, titled Ezra, while it is the longest episode, it's funny because it feels like this is the episode that takes the most time with itself. It's a lot about character development, more so about the fallout of people who are affected by if someone is just taken out of their lives. We started the episode off with Sam in his cubicle at work, trying to get things done, and his coworker comes over and says, "Hey, I gotta go back out to the same spot that I was at a few months ago to re-inspect the place." And that immediately, just the looks and the wheels on Sam's face starts turning some things, and he's like, "Well, that's not how it's supposed to be done. There is a rule and a regimen and order that everything has to sort of go in, and when it doesn't, bucks the system, he loses it." And so that sort of happens here, and he goes up to his boss in the most disrespectful way. It's clear that there are social cues and the way that things are supposed to be done that Sam just has never had or done, because he basically rips his boss a new one in front of everybody, even though there's no one looking, but he does it in a public setting, and asks him, like, "Hey, are we jumping the line? Like, there's supposed to be an 8-month moratorium or hold before we go back to re-inspect the place. Why are we going back to that place?" And the boss just puts him in his place, like, "Hey, when you do my job, then you can do things the way you see fit. Until now, you're a worker, and you're a good worker, but I'm gonna need you to just do that." And that does not sit well with Sam. It is at that point that I think everybody who's watching was like, "Oh, so Sam's found his next person that he needs to take out." It seems like he had already, and we'll get that later in the show, but it seemed like he's already sort of had an out for him anyway when he read that letter out loud in front of the rest of the coworkers. But so he's already had like the inkling of it in the back of his head. Now this gives him a moment or a reason to go full steam ahead, and boy does he. For the first time though, Sam until the very end is kind of like the B-side story. The majority of the story sits in Alan parallel to Ezra. Alan is having another disassociation combo with his therapist, Charlie, in his head. Meanwhile, he's also taking time to the tube that he has, the prescription that he has. You know how those metal little, somewhat, they're not really that sharp, but it is technically made of metal. He's sharpening that the entire time. Perhaps to use as a weapon, perhaps to just kind of make himself feel some type of, like he's taking some type of charge. While he is doing that, however, he's also having a combo with Charlie. It's a cool thing to happen, though, because it is having that sharpening happening in the background of these moments that he's having. So it's like, it's reminding you and telling you that, yes, he is prepping, he's doing something, but to bide his time, he's thinking, having these very deep inner monologues. And in his inner monologue, he starts going on with Charlie about something. Basically, he starts having a conversation about how he last left it with Ezra. It is a moment when you are close to death or you think you're about to die that you start reflecting on the moments or the people in life that you may not have ended on the best terms with. And so he starts to kind of delve in deep into some of the things that he may have said that could have caused Ezra to react in the manner that he did. He goes on, there was a line about him, it started off with a steak. And the steak he referred to that his wife made that Ezra's wife made. He's like, that's the best kosher steak that he's ever had. For him, he felt, hey, that's a compliment. I'm saying that's the best steak. But you put the word kosher in front of it, you're saying that that's the best steak that you could possibly make. It's sort of a backhanded compliment. And he gets there. He figures it out. He's like, yeah, that was a backhanded compliment. But then Charlie starts getting more and more into it. And obviously this is Alan getting more and more into it. But he starts getting more into it about the why he would use that term. The why he kept being so judgmental of Ezra. Why he kept being so angry at Ezra. He goes on to say that he always felt that Ezra had a lot of Beth in him, while Shoshana had a lot of him in him. Can be a bit of a rebel, could be sort of against the system, do what they want to do. But as he goes along and gets some of the anger out, he starts saying that like Ezra broke up the family. Like he felt that he broke up the family. He wants to use the term, he knows it's not right, but he wants to use the term that you killed your brother, even though he knows that that's not what it was. He has so much disdain and anger and hate towards his son. And then he realizes that his son is a lot like him. He is rigid in his beliefs, a bit judgmental. He feels that as much as Ezra is Beth, he is him as well. And he starts coming to the conclusion that like, yeah, I did judge him on his religion. I did. Didn't want to, but I did. And you could hear that before by, like, even though I think his wife may have said that the Orthodox Jewish was a cult, he wasn't far from believing that as well. But he starts to realize that all the contempt and hate that he thought he was doing a good job of hiding or putting behind this facade, Ezra was aware of it. Ezra felt it. Ezra felt the disdain. The kosher line is one of the big ones where, yeah, you're trying to be tongue-in-cheek, you're trying to sort of play, but it's clear that you feel a type of way about all this, and instead of just being completely loving with your son, and whatever it is he chooses to do, it's the same as if someone informs their parents that they're gay, but then they're like, oh, cool, but you start cracking those jokes. It doesn't feel as good, and your son, your kid can feel that, can feel all of that. There's a moment where he speaks about how he gave Shoshana, his daughter, tons of money for schooling, but he did not give Ezra, even though Ezra did not ask for it. And that's where he kind of feels that he's got a leeway. He didn't ask for it, but he did want a donation. And I'm correct, forgive me, I'm not sure how all the yeshiva educational system works, but it's a school for Orthodox Jews in training. Ezra goes, and they're following the rules. They're following, like, mom has to be completely covered, dad goes, but in that you can tell that there's contempt because he only gave him $1,000 as a donation, where he gave Shoshana tons and tons of money. And so Ezra can continue to feel that, like, I'm being shunned away. I am not good enough. I am not important enough as to seek out what my life is saying to seek out versus what you think it should seek out. And Alan has a breakthrough. He starts to cry and get emotional about, oh God, I've shown more compassion and care to this person who's captured me, to Sam, than I have to my own son. I gotta tell him this. He must hear this from me. I can't leave it like this. He sort of has that breakthrough. And Charlie says, it's too bad you're gonna die here. Like, while he is thinking about this, is Alan having this conversation saying, oh my God, I effed up. I didn't tell Ezra how much I care about him, how much I love him, how much I want to do all of this for him, but I'm about to die. So all of it now sort of just goes to the wayside. And it's like, oh, you had this massive, massive emotional breakthrough about your relationship with your son, but there's nothing that can be done for it. What it does, though, give him a new sign of fighting. And that's why I think the entire time you're hearing that sharpening behind, he's coming to that breakthrough. It does give him something to sort of live for. I think he had kind of given up. He had basically relegated himself to saying, oh yeah, I'm going to die. This is it. I'm done here. But him going through that breakthrough of like, oh crap, I have to tell him this, and I can't leave it on this note, gives Alan a bit of a puncher's chance to still try to make it out of there. While that's going on, we're going to cut with scenes of Ezra. It's the first time we get to see Ezra in long form. And Ezra is going through some of the normal practices that he would normally do day to day. He's going to his place of worship, and and doing the things that he is supposed to be doing with that. And it seems like he's going about his everyday routine. Tegan started sort of seeing that he is a little bit more nervous than what probably would be. But then he comes out and he starts stapling up missing posters of his dad, which made my day. It was clear that Ezra, in his way, was aware that his dad was missing. Something that Alan didn't think that he would notice. He thought Shoshana would notice first, and she does. I'll get on that in a second. But Ezra's going around stapling missing posters up to walls and trees and anything that he can possibly find. It is clear that while he may not have been on good standings with his father, he does have a lot of care for him. And he misses him and he loves him. And he also, like Alan, had a lot of things that were not said that he may not now have the ability to. And it's sort of like, I need him back just so I can tell him this. It's a scary and unfortunate situation because who knows how this is going to come out. But if they do end up back together, they will be better for it. It's sort of been put into the ringer of not having each other in their life, that now when they come back, everything that they've had to say to each other sort of should be able to flood out. Ezra's, again, posting up posters consistently. The stapler breaks. He goes to see Shoshana, his sister, to get a new stapler. And what's interesting in this is that they are obviously both care and love their father and are both missing him dearly. But he's putting in the work to like, I staple this and I staple this, and need to do this, and need to put this out there. Or Shoshana is at home. Looks like she had a bottle of wine. She's cutting up a charcuterie board. She's a lot more even keeled and relaxed about the situation. Not because she loves her father any less, but she was in good standing with him. It's a weird thing that when grief happens or when you lose someone, you are at wit's end to be like, oh my God, the last thing that I said to them was this. I was terrible to them. I did this. I messed this up. You start playing back all the things in your head. If it didn't end up well, you are sort of like Ezra, kind of at like, we gotta find him. We gotta find him now. Something's wrong. We gotta do this. Where Shoshana's like, I'm at peace. I love to find my father. Like, I absolutely want to find him, but there is a different level of angst with the two of them, which is fascinating to see. Shoshana says, hey, you don't need to stable anymore. You've done enough. I will finish it off. Go home. Because unlike Shoshana, who's solo, single by herself, Ezra does have a family. He makes it home, but first not with stopping by and getting a lot of non-kosher treats. A lot of sugar, chocolate, candy, things that I feel like he had as a kid that he wants to have a moment to remember sort of the good times that he had with Alan. It presents them to his kids who are having a traditional meal for them. And he's having a hard, he's opening up, it's like, I brought treats, and he puts them down, and it's just showing how much this means to him, because he's having a hard time opening these boxes. It just, again, it's a trigger for him, something that his parents both probably did when he was a kid. And one of his oldest boy runs off because they're emotional, their grandfather's missing. And so it is taking a negative effect on their home. Something that Alan is just not aware of, nor did he think would happen, is that his family is reacting to him missing. He told Elias that his son would not bother missing him, would not miss him, but his daughter would. Daughter does miss him, but his son is hurting too, and he's hurting a lot. He is going through all the moments, and while they are separated, and one is in a much more precarious position, they are both sort of going through their healing moments and their therapy moments in their heads. He's visiting his dad's home, looking at his old work office, looking at the chair. He pulls out the guitar that he sort of shunned back from him. He's like, I don't want that. Keep the guitar. I don't want it. Comes and plays a song. Take Me Home. I don't know if that's the name of it, but that's what the words are. And kudos to you, Ezra. You're a damn good singer. But it is an emotional scene. It's a sequence that kind of made me water up a little bit. Because it just shows you how much he is in pain for not having his father. And he took it for granted. When he dropped off his kids, when he did all that stuff, it's like, oh yeah, you'll always be here. I'll be able to have this reconciliation at some point in time. Now that he's gone, he doesn't know if he's going to be able to have that reconciliation. So it feels it feels very painful. He even says to his wife at some point, I handled leaving that day with mom as she was passing wrong. I was so angry and so hurt and he said so many things that we didn't leave it on a good state. So you can tell that moment when he lost his mom and walked away, something that holds a deep anger for Alan is something that holds a lot of deep regret for Ezra. And then there's Sam. Sam brings this full circle. Sam is definitely at odds and wants to go after his boss. Could have seen that one coming. And so he's stalking him, following him through his routine. He's following him as he plays like wall ball. He's following him as he goes to get something to eat. He is just kind of tracing his steps. He can't shake this feeling that this guy is doing things that are not in the correct manner or correct order, and he needs to show him a lesson or teach him or have him understand what it is that he's doing wrong, so that he can understand it. And so he stops him outside the diner, outside his restaurant with his food, and he's like, hey, yo, it's good to see you. He starts having the best version of small talk that he can have in the moment. But he basically is trying to corral him and get him to a dark alley with this trash can. Makes sense in the fact that that's what they do. They are an inspector of everything as far as restaurants go, trash being a part of it. So seems a bit unorthodox of working, hey, come hang out in this alley and lick the trash can, but it makes sense for their job line. And he gets him back there, and then he confronts him and says, hey, you can't have people jump in the line. And his boss is like, are we still having this conversation? I'm like, what is wrong? There's something wrong with you. He starts saying some of the things that I said, where he's like, you're nuts, you're crazy, what are you doing? This isn't concern you, then this isn't the way to go about this. And they start tussling a little bit and ends up on the ground. Sam ends up on top of him in the same choking manner that he was doing Elias. Like, he's choking him out, but this time it's a lot more raw. There's no much setup. His boss isn't tied up. It's a lot of just visceral anger. The face that Domhnall Gleeson is making in this moment is frightening. He is all in, and it's scary. And in that, while he's choking him out and killing him, he does mention the letter. As basically a throwaway. Like, that's where this seed started. I don't appreciate you reading that letter out loud. Well, Jesus, that's seems like a wild reason to get to hear, but okay. He then takes his trinkets, like he has always been doing. He takes a watch and a wallet. He looks back at him, and then he starts reciting the Kaddish. I don't believe that is how Alan intended for that to be used. And he leaves the body out there in the open. I think, if anything, that may be the way that he gets caught, because it seems like his most reckless kill. We've seen him sort of be a little bit more methodical. This one, for him, got emotional because he felt like this guy was breaking the rules or wasn't doing things in the way that it's supposed to be. And because of that, he should be taught a lesson. Seems like he always feels like there's a lesson to be taught for these people, and I'm the one to do it because no one else is. It's frightening. He called Mr. Pacelli, who was the therapist that he met at school, his old school shrink or school therapist. And he calls him and is like, hey. And he's like, hey, Sam, I've been waiting on your call. I've been thinking about him. He's willing to take him on as a client. He's like, hey, I'll see you next Tuesday. It's an important day, but I'll see you next Tuesday. Here's my rate. Here's this and this. And Sam's like, cool. I'm not in a good way, so I need it. And he's like, yeah, that all works. The price works. It's a good deal. Tuesday works. So immediately my brain goes, oh crap, that puts a timestamp on Alan. I don't quite know the day. We don't know what the day of the week is. If they mention it, I missed it. But there is at least a timestamp that Alan has to figure things out, because it looks like Sam's ready to switch out therapists and do things differently. Sam then goes home. Alan's asleep. Sam kind of closes the door, puts his trinkets up, the watch and the wallet that he's got, and he comes back out. And he stares at Alan and kind of starts to wake him up. And wakes him up and is like, hey, do you play ping pong? And I was like, yeah, let's play some ping pong. Mind you, he has an entire ping pong table. That's just crazy. He just rolls out a ping pong table and starts getting it on. What I find interesting, though, in a way, his boss, Sam's boss, was sort of playing a version of ping pong. The wall ball is essentially the same thing. He was playing that before he killed him. So this is sort of Sam's recreation of that. Because he knows he has a decision to make. What happens is this is all set up for Sam. He has to break the news to Alan that he does have a new therapist and he doesn't think this is working. He also has to tell him that, like, I've done it again. But this is his way of saying, all right, this is the calm before that. We need to have that bonding moment before I tell you that I have to take you out. And so they play pong back and forth. It's going in. They're having a pretty competitive match. It's going back, tit for tat, back and forth. And then at the very end of that, Sam's like, hey, so I did it again. And Alan's like, wait, what? That's fast, right? Like, you've normally killed 2 people back to back this quickly? Sam's like, no, normally it takes a little bit more time. I've never killed two people in the course of 3 days. And Sam's like, I'm getting worse. Like, I'm digressing. He feels that this is Alan's fault. Even though it's not, but Sam always sort of places blame on others instead of sort of reflecting and taking it in. As much therapy as he's getting for this, as many books as he or his mom have read, they haven't gotten to the point that there are some things where Alan is getting the moments here, in the quiet moments, he's self-reflecting and realizing, oh crap, this stuff comes from the inside me. I'm the reason why my relationship with my son's not good. Sam's not doing that. Everything is outwards. Everything belongs to everybody else and is at blame of everybody else. There's an important piece in this, and that Sam, as Alan, is there anything that I could have done differently? Do you think these people could have changed? Because they've all done something wrong. They were all bad. For him. They were all bad. And Alan's like, hey, look, real talk. I think you should, if nothing else, you should stop killing people because these people could be completely different people had you let them live. They couldn't change. And Sam says they can. Like, he's confused. Like, people can change. And I was like, yeah, they can. With therapy, with talking, people can change. You can change. But it's going to take time. It could take 5 years. And Sam's kind of like, that's a long time. For him, he needs everything immediate. He needs an immediate response, immediately handle this. I need you to immediately answer me and tell me why you aren't doing this way. If you don't give me that immediate response, he kind of can't handle the reactions that he gives. He kind of goes off the deep end. He puts the pawn table away, and then he straight up tells Alan, like, yeah, this isn't working. Like, the relationship that we're having, it's nice. I like you, but I'm getting worse. I've killed 2 people in 3 days. What we're having isn't getting the job done. But I care about you, and I can't really handle you or kill you in the way that I've killed everybody else. So, because I like you, because you gave me the cottage, he doesn't say that, but I'm using this. I need you to tell me how you would like me to kill you. Well, damn. Alan deflects, sort of, and tells a joke about 3 folks. I forgot what they were, but the last one's a Jewish person. But basically, the joke is about 3 people who are told that they need to come up with the way that they die. The first one is by a guillotine, he gets his head cut off. The second is by a firing squad and gets shot to death. Before he gets to the third one, Sam blurts out that he has found a new therapist, and they start Tuesday. And for him, that's his ripping the Band-Aid off of saying, our situation, our relationship is now fried. It's done. We can't get this back because you're not working, and I've already selected the person that I'm going to move on to, making you completely discardable. And it's at that point, Alan finishes his joke and says that the Jewish person wanted to die of old age. But now he's been hit with the fact that there is a timestamp on his. So the chance of going to old age is very minimal because in however many days, Tuesday is coming. And the final days of you are on display. We then go to black and we hear the sharpening of the metal tube, or the sharpening of the tube. Furthermore, again, that's his thing of just in the background of I just got to do something, anything that I can. Hopefully, he can turn that around. This episode's interesting in that there's not a lot of progression for Alan. There's tons for Sam. He's gotten worse. He's getting more into the deep end of it. But Alan is a lot of reflection, and we get a little reflection of Ezra. I think it's a fantastic character piece. I think, again, I've said it before, Steve Carell is doing phenomenal work. Domhnall really does great work in the death and the killing, and showing how on the edge he can become, but then as soon as that peace sort of washes over him after he's done the deed of killing, he kind of goes back to being zen and calm again. And I think it makes everybody happy to know that Ezra does care. While Alan is sitting there in a room now contemplating how he's going to die, Ezra is out there saying, I genuinely care about my father. And so I do think that the haphazard behavior that he's used in regards to killing his boss is going to be sort of what does him in. Again, another episode where Mom doesn't show up. She's kind of just disappeared off the show, which is fine because most of the character beats and whatnot took place in those three. I'm interested to see where this goes. I think anytime a show puts sort of a time clock on it, the tension just automatically rises up. So these next two episodes, no matter how we go, are going to be very precarious and very intense for Alan. This is the calm before the storm, because now there's an end game, and we got to see how all the players come out on the other end of this. So what did you guys think about the latest episode of The Patient called Ezra? Go ahead and leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name. That's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.